There we go.
There we go. Yay. It's my first interview. So like, everything's going to go backwards.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
You're
I
gonna be like
know.
at
I
this.
know. Well, hi everybody. It's Donica Albert here from You Do You Unfiltered with me and my lovely guest, Tammy. Hi, Tammy. Are you
Hello.
ready for this? Well, this is my first interview. This is amazing. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm your first
You're my
guest.
first guinea pig and we've already had complications.
Oh, well, it's
Where's the
technology.
record button? Where's the record button? I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's
Oh,
okay.
wow. I'm honored. I'm the first
You
one.
are honored, and I love what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
But I'm going to let you do a little bit of bio to you, and I'll start my timer because you know how that works. I have
Yes.
to do that. I love what we're going to talk today because it's near and dear to my heart. And as we get older, like myself, and of course, you're not as old as I am, we have to take care of our moms and dads.
Yeah.
And I look forward to having this conversation with you actually to share with the world what you do, because it's super, super important in our society right now that we seem to forget about them. And we
Yeah.
can't forget about them, right? So give us a little bio about you. What's a little bit? Just something.
Okay. Well, yes, my name is Tammy Lautner. I'm a registered social worker by trade and have been for 23 years. And of that career, I've worked with seniors and their families the entire time. So I
Mhm.
have a real passion for seniors. But as time has gone on in the career, it really shifted focus on the caregivers, the family caregivers,
Right.
and how crucial their role is in, like you say, in society, in people's lives. And so I worked in nonprofit for about 21 years of my career, and I'm going on 2 years now with my business, Peace of Mind Concierge. And so I specialize in supporting seniors and their family caregivers. So help with navigating complex systems like healthcare
Right.
and housing, and really providing that support for the caregivers. So 95% of my clients are children of
Right.
seniors. And it's really to help and support them so they don't feel so alone. Because when people come to me, they're very overwhelmed. They have a great deal of anxiety. They have a great deal of guilt, and they feel really alone in their role. And so I ensure them that now you have found me, you are no longer alone in your journey of this caregiving, and we will do together and we'll walk it together. So I really feel honored to do this type of work, and it is very, very important and very crucial.
Now you do that where? In just because I
In
know you're
Edmonton,
in Alberta.
Alberta. Yes.
Okay.
And
So
region. So I do reach out to those smaller municipalities that don't have as many of those supports set up.
right.
So yeah.
Now, is there anything cross Canada that does what you do?
Uh, there's a little bit of that caregiving consulting. More so, I would say Ontario is a little bit more better positioned than we are here in Alberta.
Right.
I haven't come across anybody that's done exactly what I am doing in Alberta. There's a little bit in BC, but they're more considered what they call patient advocates.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily focused on the caregiver per se. So it is emerging, but it is a very slow process. So I would say that I'm probably one of the trailblazers as far as providing this type of service in the private sector.
So when you mean your service, do you go with the client to mom and dad, or do you Zoom with them and give them kind of ideas what they can expect and do to help them maneuver themselves through this lovely process of aging with mom and dad?
Right. Yeah, it really depends on the client.
Yeah.
It's what they want.
Right.
When I first meet with a client, it's usually I try to do it in person because
Right.
you
Yeah.
really don't get a good sense on what's going on for that person and
Yeah.
how they're living and how they're coping,
Right.
until you're in that person's space. So I
Right.
really do try to meet with people one-on-one in person for the first time that we meet. But then again, it's really about their comfort level. I meet them where they're at. I've had clients where I meet them in their coffee shop. They'd rather that
Oh,
I
right.
meet them at home. Um, so it really, it's kind of all across the gamut. I can meet with people virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really try to, because what I find with caregivers is they focus so much on the care recipient, right? So that
Right.
person is sick. And they
Mhm.
don't focus on themselves because
Right.
typically, as you know, at being a caregiver, you are that person that gives to others and you don't give as much to yourself, right? Like it's
Right.
not a natural thing to think about yourself. So
Right.
I really focus my attention on the caregiver, which is funny because they don't expect it.
Right.
Right? So they think that I'm going to focus all my time and energy on the person that they're caring for. It's like, well, how are they doing? And
Yeah.
what do they need? And it's like, no, how are you doing? And what is
Mhm.
it that you need? And when I ask people that, when I ask a caregiver, how are you? I can't tell you how many times I get this deer in the headlights look. They kind
Right.
of stop. They don't expect somebody to actually ask them how they're doing. And some people break down and cry.
That'd be me.
Yeah. Other people get a bit defensive and say, don't ask me that
Yeah.
because I don't want to talk about it because I might break
Right.
down and I might just fall apart, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's really important that they do focus on how they're doing because unfortunately I've seen it more times than not in my career where a caregiver passes away or
Mhm.
becomes very ill before the person that is supposedly sick, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because people really don't take enough seriousness towards stress and
Right.
what stress can do to
Well,
us. And when we
stress can
don't
do
slow down,
tons of stuff.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
if you don't listen to your body will decide for you eventually, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in my situation, my mom's my dad's caregiver, and I'm the third party in that
Right.
sees what's going on. Unfortunately, with that situation, she has a hard time giving some of that to me when I'm there. Because
Hmm.
and it's very overwhelming. I gotta say, it's very overwhelming, but I'm not there 100% of the time. And of course, she reminds me of that a lot.
Right.
But would it be beneficial for someone like my mom to talk to you, who is the major caregiver, but would it also be beneficial for the daughter who sits outside or the son that sits outside and looks in and watching the situation unfold in the house? Because I know that, like when I took care of my mom, I was her caregiver when she had lung cancer, I lost myself. I'm like, who
Yeah.
am I? I
Yeah.
was full on 4 months caregiving with and caregiving to my dad.
Right.
And it was I had to reach out and get help to put me back on track because I was walking around like a zombie, like I was exhausted. So is it good for the caregiver within the house and also the daughter and the son that are visiting that see that and want to help and give the other caregiver some time? Like how do you maneuver through that? I'm just talking through experience from me
Right.
though.
Yeah.
How do you move? Because anyone out there can resonate with that going, I go home and all I see is mom yelling at dad or dad yelling at mom because she's not doing anything and blah 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 and you want to jump in.
Right.
So,
Yeah. See,
what's good? What's the like, what would they do? Send mom to you or send dad to you or send the child?
yeah, I would say all of the above.
Okay.
And it being a separate thing because
Mhm.
like I'm just starting to personally enter into this world. My
Yeah.
parents are still very independent and doing quite well. My mom's 89, my dad turned
Wow.
93. Yeah, my dad's 93, just turned last month.
Wow.
Still living in the same house that I grew up in. But they're slowing down, and so I'm
Yeah.
helping them with navigate a few different things. And of course, everything's about technology, and they're not good with that. So helping with that and different things. So it's a different situation when you are that person that
Yeah.
is third party,
Yeah.
right? I try to give them a lot of respect and a lot of dignity and a lot of space, but it's also frustrating because I know with my professional background, I know there are certain things that they could be doing to make life easier for them and ultimately like make life easier for me. Like, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And they don't do it, right? So
Yeah.
it's frustrating. So for me, when I come into a situation, I really look at the family dynamics and I
Mhm.
look at the emotions that are tied to
Yeah.
it because I can also resonate with that a little bit and the frustration and how even though I don't really consider myself a caregiver because I'm not having to do a whole lot yet with my
Right.
parents. But there is some aspect of support and decision making and helping that
Mhm.
sometimes when I spend a few hours with them, I'm emotionally spent
Yes.
because I'm trying to convince them of things that are really for the betterment of their quality of their life
Yeah.
happening now. But they don't listen to it.
Right.
And it's frustrating. So I really try to approach it separately because your mom's take on how things are as being a caregiver 24/7 and living with
Right.
somebody is very different than it is for you being
Sure.
a distance caregiver and not being there all the time, but at
Yeah.
the same time coming in and trying to help and having that resistance for that
Yeah.
help, right?
Yeah.
So two very different approaches, but I think still very much it's stressful, and that acknowledgement of what that feels like and how that is for both of
Yeah.
you is very important as well.
I got to say that I'm very grateful that my mom and dad have done what they've done. Like they've made their house accessible. So they have the chair, they have bathroom stuff to get out of the bathtub. They have we call it a stripper pole. They got stuff to get out of bed because they have the vertical beds. They both had strokes and cancer and all that great stuff. And they have a red light. Yeah,
Ah,
yes, they
good.
do. They have two actually now. Um,
Nice.
they have the seat too because getting out of the under the bed. Anyways, I get that. I get that. It's telling, and when I go in, is I kind of feel like I'm like in the middle of a gong show because I don't know what to do. And if I do something, that's your dad's job. I'm like, okay, I get it. I was like,
Right.
and that, and I know that a lot of people feel that way. So going in as a third party and knowing that my mom, and she does a wonderful job. Don't get me, she's beautiful. And I get it that she can like get very frustrated. But what can I do when I go home and say, Mom, I'm here. What do you need me to do with that? Or what do you need me to do for you?
Right.
What is that? So she's not taking offense to that or become defendant. Oh, I don't need you. You know what I mean? Because their independence is slowly diminishing eventually. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like in that case, I feel very sad and overwhelmed.
Right.
But what can someone do when they walk in? Because I go pretty much a lot. Go
Mm,
walk in and as a third caregiver, say, here I am. What do you need me to do? Like,
right away, I would say don't ask them.
okay, okay, good. Good to know.
The one thing is, first of all, again, somebody that is a caregiver has that type of personality that has a difficult time probably asking for help.
Trust me.
They also probably feel, especially if you are a spouse,
Yeah,
no different in some ways than when you're a mom.
right,
The idea of somebody else coming in and doing your job, right?
right.
Your role, seems like a sense of failure, that this is my job, this
Yeah,
is my duty, for better or for worse, I'm
mm,
supposed to be doing this. The other piece of that is when, and this can be universally, when something happens, let's say somebody's going through a diagnosis, and we typically, we cared, so we like, if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Well, that's just one more thing that we're now asking somebody that
right,
already has
right.
all these balls in the air and all these thoughts and all these
Yeah,
emotions. We're
yeah,
now asking them to think about more things,
right. Yeah,
or be present for someone else. So now they need
right,
to be present for you to think
right.
about, well, what is it that I could ask you to do for me, right?
Yeah,
And again, I think by just human nature, we don't, when somebody, like, I've had those happen to me many times when I'm going through something, somebody says that to me, and I know that they mean well. I know that they, certain people in my life, they actually do mean it. They're not just saying it. That
yes,
if I was to say, hey, I need this,
yeah,
but I've never felt a sense of comfort to take them up on it, right? It's kind
right,
of like,
right.
oh,
Yeah,
I don't want to burden you, I don't want to overwhelm you, and it's
yeah,
my issue and it's my business,
yeah,
and I'll deal with it,
yeah.
right? So I find that if you just don't ask, you just do.
You just do,
Or
right?
maybe it's when you come and visit, you have brought dinner,
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah. And
right?
the other thing I
Or
do, I will announce, okay, we're coming to do your backyard. And that's
yeah,
what my son and I did. We just cleaned up their backyard, take everything they needed out, and they had nothing. And I said, that's what I'll that because if I ask her where she will be, well, I don't know. So you
yeah,
got a
yeah,
fantastic point. Just show up
just
and
do.
just do.
Yeah,
If it's sheet day, just do the sheets.
yeah,
And at my and I have to speak on experience. I can't speak for anyone else, but it's super duper hard to be 2, 3 province over caregiver
I can imagine.
They're very independent and they go to Florida for 6 months and they're great. My mom is fantastic. She has a brain of a 25-year-old. I'm so proud of her. Um, but it's kind of that every time you go, it's like there's that one more year. And in my brain, I don't know if a lot of people think that, I just want them to live their life and be happy because they don't have lots of years left,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
And that's how
And
I feel too, for sure. Yeah, you want them to have a good quality of life. And so
yeah,
even those things like bringing services into the home,
right.
right? So having somebody come in and clean a little
Oh,
bit, not everything,
yeah,
because I get it. Like,
yeah,
you don't want them to just be sitting around and doing nothing, have people coming in and doing everything, right? Like if you still are independent, you should
yeah.
still be doing things, but
Oh, yeah.
maybe not,
Mhm.
maybe not vacuuming and washing the floors and scrubbing the tub though anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So bringing those types of services in to give them a better quality of life, and they don't have to be worrying about those bigger tasks. Snow shoveling, like nobody well into
Oh,
their
yeah.
80s should be shoveling snow anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge risk for, a possible heart attack, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's difficult because they're so used to doing those
Yeah.
things and they still live in their own home
Yeah.
and they want to stay independent. But I think that there's a balance and you
There's
can bring
totally
in those types of things
right.
and not have it that it takes over everything and you're just expecting them to just sit in a chair, stare at the wall and wait to die, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
no, how about it frees up time for you to go for a walk?
Yeah.
It frees up
Absolutely.
time for you to read that book that you've been meaning to
Yeah.
read. Like those kinds of things, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing in some help. It doesn't mean that you're not independent anymore or that you are useless.
Yeah.
It just means that, um, you are slowing down. Like it's a reality. Gosh, we
Trust me, I
all,
have a cleaning lady.
yeah, like I used to, but yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's,
it just gives you that extra time so you can spend somewhere else
yes,
that's needed. And I
yes.
know the one thing, I don't know, think about this, but after my mother had lung cancer, they got two puppies and they just livened up my mom and dad. It was
Mm,
almost like their service dogs. And they love those two like no tomorrow, and they are outside with them, so they've actually started move now. Lots of people can't do that. Is that a good thing that people at that age to do, like, because it's another care, but it's another responsibility which keeps their mind going, maybe, I don't know,
yeah,
like.
and our parents are cat people. We always had cats, and my
Yeah.
dad is a cat person. I mean, like I always
Oh,
say, I joke and say he's the cat whisperer because every cat he's ever been around or known loves him.
yeah.
And when their cat passed away quite a few years ago, my dad made the decision no more, just because it was more work. Um,
Right.
Even though he saw it as something that was very beneficial to his mental health and they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it's such a personal, individualized choice because
Right.
you need to determine whether you can actually handle
Yes.
the the,
Absolutely.
the tasks that are
Yeah.
attached to that, right? Like going like for a dog, taking them for walks. Can
Yeah.
you do that?
Which is good. They have little ones. They have
It
like
is.
teeny
Yes.
ones, but it gets them
Yeah,
outside, and
for
that's
sure.
good. And in
Yeah.
the
And it gives
backyard.
them a reason to get up in the morning, right?
Absolutely. Well, they wait, they sleep with them, but I don't know. But I find that there's a new energy level that comes with them, and it's so beautiful to see because they
Mm,
don't have all the kids are like in their 50s and turning 60 soon.
yeah.
But, for them, when I got them, I was like, "Oh my god." But they're pee pad trained, so my mom was really, really, interested in getting in a puppy instead of getting one, they got 2. So, but
Oh.
it's changed their dynamics of the day, and I can see how much they love every time I FaceTime her, she's got a dog on her shoulder, like a kid. So I see that love, and I see that continuous movement of getting them fed, they make their own dog food, so there's stuff that they're responsible for, which is so super great. But
Mm,
there's so many people out there that don't have that
mhm.
to get out and do that, and that scares me because we're a country of movement. We're a world of movement, and how do we get to people like that? Do you need volunteers? Like, how does that work out to go into a home and get people to move and live again? Is that something that you look at too as well?
It is. I mean, I've got some business partners that I would call preferred business partners. It was one of the goals when I started the business to be able to have kind of a running list of
Mhm.
those types of businesses that I would recommend.
Right.
And I take referrals lightly. I get to know that business owner, I get to know what they're about,
Yeah.
what they do, what are the benefits that they provide to people, and most importantly, what are their values. So
Right.
they need to align with my values. They need to be very
Yeah.
genuine and authentic and sincere in wanting to help people.
Mm.
So I actually do have a couple that come to mind that can assist with things like that. Like there's private home care that
Yeah.
can do companionship, that can
Yeah.
come in and provide a bit of that visitation and encourage people like, let's go for a walk, or if they have a garden, let's go in the garden and pull some of the weeds
Yeah.
or take a look and see how
Absolutely.
it's going. Like there's those kinds of things. And then I actually came across somebody not so long ago at a business networking that has a business somewhat similar to mine in that she's a professional, has her business as a solopreneur. She's a rec therapist and she goes
Oh,
into people's homes and does exercise and recreation type of routines and creates a
yeah.
plan for seniors that are
Yeah.
still living at home. And even if they're in a facility, she does
Mm.
that as well,
Mm.
where she works one-on-one with them
Yeah.
and goes in on a regular basis and works on some of those things so that they stay active because
Right.
everybody wants to age in their own home, right?
Well,
Like
absolutely, because I
our
don't think there's anything out there anymore. Like you're on a wait list. 'Cause all I hear is wait list, wait list, wait list.
yeah,
And people
yeah,
need to get into home. There's a wait list. And that's kind of
yeah,
not taking care of our elderly, right? So if
yeah.
they can stay in.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, it's a good and a bad situation. The thing is, our government really pushes this idea of aging in age at home, aging in
Right.
place, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you have money, because
Mhm.
all of these different, because you're going to have to bring in some services at some point,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's having somebody do house cleaning, having somebody
Yeah.
do a bit of personal care, maybe it's meal prep, yard
Mhm.
work, cutting the grass, shoveling the walk, all those things cost money.
Yeah.
So you have all kinds of money to spend. Great. You probably can stay in your own home.
Right.
But the other side of that is this idea that the families are going to now help, which isn't an entirely terrible idea, but the way our society is set up is we're looking at family members that are like you and I.
Yeah.
You may still be raising your kids, you're still working full time, you're running a business.
Yeah.
Maybe you have your own health issues, or maybe you have a spouse that does that you're
Yeah.
caring for. Maybe you want a bit of a life, right? Maybe you want to travel a little bit. Maybe you have hobbies like golfing, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So what I find is happening is because we're not investing enough dollars in things like more housing, more infrastructure there, and this idea of, well, let's have people live at home and stay at home,
Right.
it's downloading to the families,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
isn't a great thing because
Mhm.
people are burning out and there is such a thing as caregiver burnout, and it is very much here. It is very prevalent,
Right.
and it's going to explode even more
Yeah.
as we age. I mean, aging is inevitable. We have an aging population. We have our baby boomers. We keep hearing about the baby boomers now are going to become seniors,
Yeah.
and the senior population in Alberta specifically is going to be higher than the children under the age of 15. These kinds
Right.
of statistics that are coming out. So what are we doing about it? We can't
Mhm.
decide that
Can't just
fam
like throw them to the wolves. Like, what are we
well,
gonna
we can't expect that family is going to take over
take?
all of
Yeah.
these different aspects of people aging, right?
Yeah.
So it's a real issue
Mhm.
that that I'm seeing in Canada, never
Yeah.
mind Alberta. There are some very positive things happening. There is a caregiver strategy that is being implemented for across Canada, and very the infancy. So kind of the talks haven't started yet as far as the work started, but Alberta is working on a caregiver strategy as well. And I very much intend to be a part of that. So
Great.
there's things happening.
Yeah.
They're just not happening as quickly as people are aging and as the need is, right?
Right. Quick question. So my mom, my
Mm.
dad's ex-military, she fought
Oh,
you tooth and nail to get what he gets. And military doesn't make it easy because being working around planes and all that great stuff, he suffered physically from that. But she's a big fighter. and she's got a lot of money from not a lot of money, but enough money to help my dad get up and downstairs and get out of the bathtub and all that great stuff. There's that small world that people aren't diving into when you have ex-military men that have the benefits where they're hidden. Do you guys see any of that too, where it's hidden and you have to dig deep because they make it so damn difficult for you to access that damn money that you put a bazillion years in, and you need your doctor's note, you need this, this, and this. And I remember my mom just going, I'm doing this. And she's the best advocate for military wives that are caregiving now for ex-military men. Do you see that? Like that there's
Ah,
money out there to help, but it's so darn hard.
yeah.
Get it?
I mean, that is a big part of what I do. I
Oh,
mean, let's be honest, I don't know if I would be as busy as I am if we made things easy for people.
oh,
I
I
think,
know. Yeah,
and it's not complex uh, by accident.
absolutely.
Right? So that's, and for sure with Veterans Affairs, for sure,
Mhm.
that has happened, but it's all government programs.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
our healthcare system. It's how you access things.
Yeah.
It's not, you have to educate yourself and you have to know how to do this, but it's exhausting. You already have all these other things to do.
Yeah.
Now I have to try to figure out who do I talk to about this
Yeah.
and how and what do I say? That's the
Yeah.
other thing. What's the language that I use to even
Yeah.
ask proper questions to get the right answers? Where do
Absolutely.
I go? Who do I talk to? Right? It's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. And that's my mom. She
So if
doesn't
you don't
know it.
even know that a benefit exists, then
Yeah.
how are you going to know to ask about it? I'll give you an example. I had a daughter earlier this year that I helped her. She was helping her mom and her dad. And she was purchasing incontinence products for dad off Amazon, because it was cheaper than, of course, going to, like, let's say Shoppers Drug Mart, right?
Yes.
So they
Yes.
would buy a case at a time. But after she had met me, I let her know about an Alberta government program where you can get it quite heavily subsidized. You have to go through the application process. It's quite easy, but it's called Alberta Aids to Daily Living, and you can get 75% of the cost of things like incontinence products covered through the government. And if you are, it's a income test. So a lot of people also think that, oh, well, I'm so used to not qualifying for
Yeah.
anything, I make much money. Well, no, this one is income tested, but if you are over the threshold, you still get what they call cost share, where the government pays 75% and you pay 25%.
Oh.
That's a heck of a lot cheaper than buying cases of product off of Amazon, right?
Oh, and product not covered, like not FDA and Health Canada.
Yeah, and there's a way to do it. Like you have to apply, you have to go through a
Yeah.
certain vendor, all these different things. But once you're set up, it's very seamless and very easy.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's advertised. Who's
Yeah.
telling you these things? They don't tell
Like
you these,
serious. Yeah. And
right? And
that's
that's
my
by accident.
and they're so vulnerable. Like the aging are so vulnerable to anything
Mhm.
that it's scary. It's absolutely definitely very scary out there for them to be their own advocate unless you have a mom like mine who has a sharp brain.
Right. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that is a common theme that I do when I consult with caregivers and I coach, because I try to coach. I try
Yeah.
to coach people to work the system.
Yeah.
This is how to work the system. This is what the truth is. This is what the reality is, and this is
Absolutely.
people don't even realize. It's so sad. Like when we're thinking about healthcare system, people don't realize how much power and how much rights they have to push back when they're told something. And this is nothing against the good people that do the great work in our healthcare systems. They are doing great work. I've been there where I'm in nonprofit and I'm a good person,
Yep.
authentic. I'm doing
Yep.
this work because I truly care.
Here,
It's
yeah.
the system. It's
Yeah.
really hard to work in these public systems
Yeah.
because you're so limited on what you can do, but people don't realize that they have much more power. So when I coach people, I tell them these things that
Yeah.
you do have a heck of a lot more power and more rights than you
Yeah.
realize. But that common theme that I always have to go back to is I tell people is like you need to somewhere inside of you find something where you have more energy. Like you have to push back.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely. You have to fight.
Unfortunately, I have to ask you, you've come to me, you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, you have anxiety, maybe all these things.
Yeah.
And now I'm asking you to push through a little bit more. But when you do, then you get a lot of the things that you deserve that
Yes,
really should be pretty standard and basic for everyone. But
absolutely.
it's not how our systems work. If you want to get really good care, if you want to get all the benefits that you're entitled to, you have to educate yourself and you have to push and you have to just keep trudging on.
Mm.
Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. And so that's a big part of what I do is I educate people and coach them on how to do that.
Well, that's it. It's fantastic. This has been, we could talk forever about
Yeah.
aging because
Oh,
it's,
for sure.
it's such, it's so good for even people who are younger to get ahead. And that's what you're there for, is to get ahead. And that's super, super great. But when I read your one quirkiness, I'm just going to go out into the quirkiness. Really? Star
Yeah.
Wars
Yeah. Yeah.
and little figurines?
Yeah, I have little action figures that I have on display in my office. So yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. I think that's
And
fantastic.
and it's not really, if you know me, then you get it. But if you don't know me like on a really, really, really personal level, like
Yeah.
my children,
Yeah.
you don't get it. But I'm actually more the dark side of things than I
Oh,
am the hero. But I love,
oh,
you don't know how, if you don't know Star Wars at all, then you're gonna be like, what the heck is she even talking about? But
well, I
and
know
I
Star Wars.
old school. I like the old school Star
Me
Wars.
too.
So when they did the newer ones, I'm not as big of a fan of those. So it's the old ones when I
Like
was a kid.
Han Solo.
Yes, so
Oh,
absolutely in love with Han Solo. Had a crush on him since for as long
I
as I
know.
remember. And Chewbacca, I love Chewie.
That's
But I really loved Darth Vader growing up. I just thought he was so neat and intriguing. So
that is such a
yeah,
nice
so
little.
Darth Vader is actually my favorite guy, but
Ah,
I know it's terrible considering who I am and what I do.
that's okay. Well, I do have your information and I'm gonna post that, but I'm hoping that people will get out and be the advocate that they need to be for our aging society, because that's what we have to do. Someone's got to do it, and you're the front runner of everything, and that you're such a beautiful soul. I've known you for a while. You're such a beautiful soul, and you had the best hair ever.
Oh wow, really? I
You and
love it.
I, you and I both have that big hair. I
Yeah,
had to pull
that's
mine
good.
back because I got out of bed going, whoa, not today. So,
You
but
know,
it,
and planning is a big part of it when we're aging. And I think that the career that I've had has blessed me in that I can plan ahead and then essentially hopefully make the lives for my daughters. I have two grown daughters better. Yes, I have a partner, but I know that my kids are going to be involved, right? I know he's going to go to them and say, okay, I need help with this, with that,
yeah.
right? So planning ahead is a big part of it. If you can get ahead of things and educate. I've had a couple of senior clients where they've come to me, they've hired me simply to do that, to do a
Yeah,
bit of planning and education. And I'm
yeah,
so impressed by that. Like they're not in
that's
a place where
fantastic.
they need to move out of their house, but they want to know options now.
Yeah,
They don't want to put it on their kids and have to decide things in a crisis situation. Like
yeah.
who wants to do that, right? All the emotions involved, and now you got to make big
I am
decisions.
maybe, yeah.
So I've actually created a document because I actually did it for myself.
Oh,
Because I know I'm going to be that person. So in a family, there's usually one person. So Adonica, that's you, right?
mhm,
You're that one person in your family that really steps up and makes those decisions and gets in there
yeah.
and supports as much as you can. And I know that I'm going to be that person naturally for my parents. And it's already happening. But I created a document just for me that I can put all of their information in one place.
Okay.
Because if your parents are anything like mine, like my mom, she writes down things all over the place. She writes it in this book, in that book, on this piece of paper, on that piece of paper, and only she knows what it means.
Yeah, I
So
know
you can
it.
imagine if something happens, and of course, let's say my dad's still around, something happens to my dad's going to be looking to me to help him, to support him in his decisions.
Absolutely.
If I have to find information, I got to look through her stuff. I
Yeah.
don't think so.
No,
I'm
not happening.
wading through all her crap.
Yeah.
So I created a document where you can put all the information, everything from what are your final wishes? Who do
Yeah.
I call when you die? We had
Yeah.
that conversation because it's like I
Uh-huh.
don't even know the
Yeah.
people that my mom knows. She
Yeah.
talks to certain friends, but I don't know them.
Yeah.
And being 89 and 93, you've outlived most of your family. So
Yeah.
my aunts and uncles, most of them are gone.
Yeah.
Um, and from there all the way to, do you have a safety deposit box?
Hmm.
If so, where is it? And where's the key?
Yeah.
Where does the key,
There.
right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So I've created a document, and then I thought, well, why aren't I sharing this with other people?
Have to.
So I created it so that it's got, the business branding on it and that kind of thing, so I can actually sell it. And so if people go on my website, they can download
That's
it and have their own document
oh,
and get ready. And this isn't an old person or age thing. Do it now for your kids.
yeah,
Do it now.
absolutely.
Put all of your information in there
Yeah,
and then let them know where it is and
yeah,
give them a copy of it, maybe,
yeah,
right? Because you
yeah,
can download
absolutely.
it and make it just like a digital copy, or you can print it off, either or. And
So
then you have it and it's all there, because when you do those kinds of things, you are giving such a huge gift to your family if you
yeah.
do those types of things with planning, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Well, we'll attach the website to everything too as well. And it's been a joy talking to you.
Yes, it's
Let's
great
do
to
it
see you. It's
again.
been so long. Yeah.
Let's do it
We should
again. It's been so long. Yeah.
talk about menopause next time. We
Oh
talked
God.
all day long
Oh,
and
that's my baby. No, I'm
yeah,
just I'm just kidding. But this is so important for somebody like myself. And I know a lot of people out there. And the one thing that when you sit down and you talk to your friends, they're always talking about your mom and dad.
yeah, this is
And
true.
then you know you're getting old when you're doing that. When we
Yeah.
start talking about medication, then we know we're on the other spectrum. But yeah, absolutely. But it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Tammy, we'll put everything attached to the podcast, and I look forward to let's catch up again.
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
that. Okay.
Okay. Talk to you
See you.
later.
Bye.